Shalom, brothers and sisters. Shalom. Giving honor and praise unto the Most High, the Creator and Maker of heaven and earth. My name is Yeshaya Yisrael, of the tribe of Dan of the nation of Israel. This particular presentation, brothers and sisters, is due to the fact that we want to, brothers and sisters, bring this out to the people. We ask you all to subscribe to the channel that you're watching this on. We ask you all to comment, to like, to share, brothers and sisters. And we ask you all, brothers and sisters, if you do leave a comment, leave it, for the lack of a better term, in quote, good faith, if you will. So, without any further ado, and giving honor to the Most High, Creator, Maker of heaven and earth, I give a shout out on a human level to the congregation that I am a part of, Shomrei Habrit. Much respect to the brother Mora Yivtak. I give due respect, brothers and sisters, to my teachers in the past, some of them who have passed away, some of them who are still among the living. Brothers and sisters, this presentation has been postponed for some time. So what we want to do with the time allotted is bring this out for the edification reasons for the people, for those who are interested. This presentation, brothers and sisters, will be inclusive of 70 slides. We ask you all to get your pens, your pads, your paper, and so forth and so on. Let us, brothers and sisters, get into this. Hopefully, you all will like it. I am not going to say that you all will agree with everything that is presented. Nonetheless, brothers and sisters, what we care to get into, as I set this up on my phone line, brothers and sisters, is hopefully going to be at least respected, if nothing else. How, I am asking everybody, is everybody doing? Shalom, brother Obadiah. I may not be able to see, as this presentation goes along, everybody's comments. Nonetheless, if you give a brother the respect to even want to hear what a brother is saying, it does mean a lot in that particular case. If I can be heard, please give me a 1. If I can be heard, please give me a 1 before I pull up the PowerPoint in that particular manner. This is on the channels Mora Yeshaya Torah Lessons, Mora Yeshaya History Lessons, and Mora Yeshaya History Lessons 2. Again, I ask you all, brothers and sisters, thank you to the people who did reply with the 1. Get your pens, get your pads, get your papers, because in part, this is called History Not for the Novice. I got the terminology not for the novice from somebody who, no disrespect intended, pardon, I needed to drink, stated that a brother does not teach for the novice. We want to, brothers and sisters, raise the bar, if we will. We want to, brothers and sisters, let it be known for edification purposes that you respect, for the lack of a better term, your brothers and sisters / your audience, if you will. That you don't sit there and try to, quote, always dumb things down, because we're not dealing with a dumb people. The house of Israel is not dumb. I'm not exempt, maybe rebellious, maybe hard-headed. Maybe that's why we're giving hard-headed children, so we can sit there and see how we look. You understand? But I'm saying this in due respect, brothers and sisters. Giving due respect on a human level to my history teacher, may he rest in peace, Chief Simeon from the congregation known as B'nai Zakin. Giving due respect to the man who influenced me to want to get into the Hebrew language, may he rest in peace, Adon Aharon ben Zebulun, in the congregation called Beni Adat. Giving due respect, may he rest in peace, to the person who taught me how to teach Hebrew. That is Moreh Tibak. That was part of the congregation Beni Adat, for those who do know. Giving due respect, brothers and sisters, to one of my main Hebrew teachers, may he rest in peace, Moreh Mishael ben Yisrael. Giving due respect, brothers and sisters, to my living Hebrew teacher, Kohen Mikael ben Levi. Giving due respect, brothers and sisters, may she rest in peace, my mother, Gered Ima Nifla Bat Asher. And I heard the rumors, I heard the statements of this and that. Yeshaya is always talking about his Ima. Yeah, I miss her. Today, 40 years ago, she was brought to a congregation October 8th, 1982 on a Shabbat called Kosheri. The teacher there was a man, may he rest in peace, Moreh Yosef. Where I got my very first Hebrew lesson, but was too young to understand its importance. It was playing around by a man, may the Most High continue to bless his life, named Moreh Katriel. Brothers and sisters, in due respect, if we will, there is nothing wrong with giving a due honor and homage due to your parents. It doesn't make you a mama's boy. It doesn't mean that when you're dealing with a sister that you're looking for a mother. Yeah, I've heard those kind of similar statements from people. But brothers and sisters, I say, as the brother Moreh Yiftach pointed out, speak your truth. And I would not be in the level of even being comfortable to even do public presentations had it not been for my mother, who sat there and said, talk to me. I used to write things and then read it to her. May she rest in peace. Train a child in the way in which he will go, and when he is old, he will not depart. Brothers and sisters. So looking upon it, say, in that particular manner, looking upon it, say, in that particular case, if we will, brothers and sisters of the house of Israel, what can we say of that particular matter? The book of the Apocrypha, as we get into this intro, and I thank you all for joining on, we're going to take this flyer down about the book sale and so forth. For those who want information, I can be reached at 908-587-4841. So I'm going to, brothers and sisters, take down this particular flyer here, if we will. Right? And show this book here, Apocrypha. Now, I understand not every Israelite may agree with it, but the writers of the Apocrypha will tell you they would rather you read the Torah than the books that they wrote. Anyone who's of an authorship and knows the truth of the Most High will say such. I'd rather you read the 5 books of Moses before you read any book that I wrote. You understand? Ecclesiasticus chapter 3, verse 1 in the Apocrypha. Hear me, your father, O children, and do thereafter, that ye may be safe. For the Most High has given the father honor over the children, and have confirmed the authority of the mother over the sons. This is in the Apocrypha, Ecclesiasticus chapter 3. Has confirmed the authority of the mother over the sons. So to the people, person, whoever, because you'll be amazed at what people say about you, but then as we read on Yom Kippur, shut up the mouths of our adversaries and accusers. Nullify all evil decrees against us. You will be surprised while people are wearing fringes will sit there and actually try to say, well, that brother's always talking about his mother. Maybe he misses her. Can he move on? This book says Sirach, who's now deceased. That's why we don't conjure up the dead, brothers and sisters. We write things and leave it for our children so they can have a record of it. That's why a brother tries to promote book writing. You understand? It says that the Most High, who lives forever, has confirmed the authority of the mothers over the sons. So don't let anybody on this earth or wherever planet they come from attempt to explain to you that somebody who honors his or her parents, whether these parents are alive or not, that there's something wrong with that person. Don't ever be of the crazy mind of such in that case. So, brothers and sisters, we're going to pull up the PowerPoint presentation. All right? And in doing so, we hope you all have your pens, your pads, your paper, your writing instruments, if you will. And this is going to be, I ain't going to usually say what we're going to try to not make it long. I don't know how long it's going to be because it's 70 slides. You understand? And we want to bring this out for the people. How many people, sidebar, have ever heard of the thing called Golden Legacy? I'm going to type that in the room. Golden Legacy. Not the book written by someone, but rather a publication of magazine called Golden Legacy. My mother got that for me, and that's when I found out about Toussaint Overture in Haiti. That's when I found out about Robert Smalls. That's when I first read about the thing about the Amistad. It was about Black history for children. Now, I say this in no dishonor. While today makes 40 years since my imam went to a congregation called Kosher Erit, which is located in the Bronx. Brothers and sisters, I remember she having been alive in the 60s. I born in 1980. I remember asking her about the situation with Malcolm X, H. Rap Brown, Martin Luther King. And her statement concerning Malcolm X and the assassination, may he rest in peace, was that she was in her teens. I'm paraphrasing. She was in her teens and she was more so dealing with school and so on. By the time Martin Luther King passed away, she was already employed and working. And I remember asking her about that. There's two things that stood out in my mind concerning what she said concerning Martin Luther King's assassination. One, in Brooklyn, New York, you was able to see the smoke coming from Manhattan from the rioting. She said that. But she also said, and I say this in no disrespect, that she had to go to work. That struck me. Martin Luther King wasn't about people taking days off. And if you understand his transformation, though he believed in his religion, he spoke in his last speech in Tennessee, April 3rd, about the Levites and going to the promised land. Did you know that? In Martin Luther King's last speech, it was not about a dream of black boys and white girls holding hands. It was, brothers and sisters, about the Levites going to the promised land, saying, I may not make it there with you, but you will see it. You don't think he was talking in code, perhaps, O house of Israel? Listen to his last speech when he's talking about the Levites, the third tribe of the house of Israel. Listen to his speech when he's talking about going to the promised land the night before his assassination. So what do we want to point out? Ima, my mother, Emi, may she rest in peace, stated she had to go to work around the time of his assassination. She wasn't very much heavy into history like that. No disrespect intended. You know, like she had the dictionary, she had like the encyclopedia. But when she saw giving honor to Yah, her son, in this case myself, spirit being guided into that, she didn't try to deter me saying, well, your father, may my dad rest in peace, was a military man. My mother was more so about that employment life. So here you have my father, may he rest in peace, being about that military life. And my mother, may she rest in peace, being about having that career and that job kind of life. You understand? Seeing a young brother, her son in this case, being geared in spirit, obviously by the Most High, to get into the matter of history, she encouraged it and promoted it. I give respect on a human level to my first male Israelite teacher, Mori Yosef ben Ephraim. May he rest in peace. In the congregation, for those who do know, that was in the Bronx Court, Kol She'erit B'nai Yisrael. Most of the teaching Mori Yosef did on Shabbat, on Sabbath, for those who may not understand what Shabbat is, who may listen to this, right? And I say that in no disrespect, was from Genesis to Deuteronomy, back to Genesis to Deuteronomy, back to Genesis to Deuteronomy. Very seldom in the years that I've known him, from 1982 until 1990, being his student, those years, those 8 years from being age 2 until age 10. Brothers and sisters, very rarely did he go into the book of Kings. He did have us as children read the book of Proverbs. And then, yeah, you had your pad of paper, you had your pen, brothers and sisters, and your pad of paper, and your Webster's dictionary. And he made us read as children on Shabbat live about, before the internet came out, reading Proverbs and giving our understanding of it. He was, in his way, gearing us to be greater than certain aspects. You just sit there and listen and have nothing to say. We, as even children, then were allowed to speak. In Hashaba Yisrael, which I attended from age 12 to age 15. You understand? There were children that were called up to read not only English, but Hebrew. And was called up at certain times to be the maftir portion. So it made us as children, coming out of Kol She'erit and or Hashaba, it made us feel welcomed in the service. It made us feel that we was a part of it. It gave us something to look forward to, brothers and sisters. So these are things in part that we want to point out for edification purposes. You understand? So if you have a child, and I'm not trying to tell no one how to raise their child, and you see your child is into something that's not wicked, but that's not your thing, encourage it. Do not say, well, you know, this is what I'm doing, so you got to do what I do. No. Because my father, being a military man, may he rest in peace, having been in the Vietnam War, my mother being in the aspect of maintaining that job, getting that job, getting that job. You understand? I wasn't into it like that. I'm not into, say, the military thing. And while, yes, thankful to the Most High for my employment, my job record is not as, if I may say, even with me taking days off for silly reasons, Ema would have never done something like irresponsible like that. Just giving her honor in that particular case. I want to, brothers and sisters, to collaborate on something that was spoken upon earlier, if we will. Right? And to land back on what a brother myself has stated. While Moreh Yosef has pointed out, in most cases in Kol She'erit, having us read as children the book of Proverbs in front of the congregation with our pen, pad, and dictionary, in case we didn't know the definition of a word, you understand? It made us being able and be more comfortable doing public speaking, if you will, which many times people try to say is the most nerve-wracking thing on earth. But we was around some of us immediate family, some of us extended family. I will never turn in them years. I will never, ever turn in them years being raised in the understanding of Yisrael for anything. You understand? So, though a brother is not perfect, though a brother even as a grown man hasn't always been the best Sabbath keeper, being raised in the understanding of Shabbat myself, never nonetheless will a young brother, myself, turn in them years for anything else, if we will. I remember asking More Yosef before we get into the lesson with this intro, if we will. Having read already in Torah, in Exodus, about the making of the Ark of the Covenant, I remember saying that I was reading Moray, and I read that the Philistines stole the Ark of the Covenant in the book of Samuel. Now, More Yosef, mainly going from Genesis to Deuteronomy over the course of years, and I say this in no dishonor intended. He knew personally, he never taught me about the Philistines and what happened in the time of Eli, of the high priest Eli. He never taught me personally that. Never. So when I mentioned something to him that he knew he never went over with me in the Tanakh, I remember the look on his face to me while he nodded his head, and he looked and said to me in Kosher Edit, 1990, keep studying. He said, yes, the Philistines did take the Ark of the Covenant. That did happen, and Israel did get it back. But he knew, in due respect, he never taught me that. But he didn't, being a moray, get in his feelings, as we call it today. Well, you ain't really got to read that far, because I'm your moray, and you got to stay under that. And me. He didn't come to me like that. I give him respect for that, brothers and sisters. He told me, keep studying. The man whom my Ima brought me to in 1982 as a baby did not tell me, while I see him in part as a father figure, you understand, that I'm supposed to stay under a man. In that case, you stay up under me, and then everything will be all right. No, the song that he sang was, Yah be with you till we meet again. That's the song More Yosef taught us to sing. May Yah be with you. Not, I'll be here forever kind of matter. So I'm saying all of that while giving honor to one's teachers. What it was in part as a child being raised in this. Will never want to turn in them years. There's an elder online, Nakemia, or Don Nakemia, also known as Tyrone Webb on Facebook, and he does these hit magazines. I want to advertise this. He does, brothers and sisters, these hit magazines. And I'm going to, brothers and sisters, show, if we will, the contact info for those who are interested in getting their information in this said magazine. Pardon for such. Going to go to where the ad is at for such. Right? Looking at it in this particular case. You can go. Oh, sorry about that. I see it now on the back. All right. It says, visit us at hint-magazine.com and get this and other issues at magcloud.com. magcloud.com. All right. So we want to advertise those who advertise us. That's just due respect, brothers and sisters, in that particular case. I want to take out the time and advertising, if we will, brothers and sisters. This is about an organization ran by sisters. This is advertised in the book that I wrote here. This is called Brew News, the Light Magazine. And I'm going to read on how you can contact them to get your information out there. Brew News Magazine at yahoo.com. BREWSMAGAZINE at yahoo.com. So if you want to advertise, and I've done business with them for some years already, as doing business with Tyrone Webb for some years already, brothers and sisters. Very reliable matters, if we will, for edification purposes. So, brothers and sisters, how's everybody doing? If you can hear what a brother is saying and you're feeling well, you're in good spirits, you're in a good attitude, you're in a good feeling and a good thought, give me a 4. Type in the number 4, please. If you can hear a brother and if you're feeling good, type in the number 4, and we're going to pull up this PowerPoint and get this out to the people. Glory to the Most High. Thank you. If I can be heard, and if you're feeling good out there, give me the number 4, brothers and sisters. Thank you. Let us pull this up and get this started. Shalom, giving honor to the creator of heaven and earth. The presentation you are watching is based on history that is not for the novice. While this is not intended to be insulting, the purpose in part of this title is due to the type of literature that will be cited in such. The genre will be on the matter of Black people and the claim we hold to being the true house of Israel. Please subscribe to the channel. Let us go on to the next slide. Old Testament timeline. Now let's look at this, brothers and sisters, if we will. We got the laser pointer. Creation. Genesis chapter 1, verse 1. Call of Abraham. 2200 BCE. Same time frame as Job. Period of the patriarchs. From 2200 BCE to 1446 BCE. The Exodus in 1446. In the book that I wrote, Egypt Talking Writing, brothers and sisters, which a shortened version of such is shown here for edification purposes, for those who are able to see it. Points out that similar timeline pattern in that case. 1406, entrance into Canaan. 1399, conquest completed, the period of the judges, which includes the time frame of Ruth, for those who know that particular matter. Israel's monarchy begins 1350 BCE. Now, we already know Israel asking for a king was not the best idea for them. The Most High spoke and said, I give you a king in my anger and take him away in my wrath. You understand? We're going to go over that some of the kings that we read of in the Bible and the scriptures are mentioned in the records of other nations. Which two things we want to point out. You, brother or sister, are evidence of your parents. You, brother or sister, is evidence of your parents' existence. The fact that somebody wrote of you, as in the case when people wrote of the kings of Israel, external to the Bible source, shows us the evidence of those kings. The same record that Assyria has, the Bible has. Who won what war in the name of the individuals. The division of the kingdom, 931 BCE. The fall of the northern kingdom, 722 BCE. The fall of the southern kingdom, 586 BCE. So, brothers and sisters, what can we ascertain in this, if we will? The year that we are in now is 2022. So now, if 586 BCE, brothers and sisters, and we're going to do the math in that particular case. You have it, brothers and sisters, 586 plus 2022 gives you 2608. 2,608 years since the fall of the kingdom of Judah. 2,608 years since the fall of the kingdom of Judah. Now, using calculator, if we will, we have 722 plus 2022 gives us 2744. So that's 2,744 years since Northern Kingdom fell. NK standing for Northern Kingdom, brothers and sisters. We have the restoration of the land, and then the Old Testament ends in 430 BCE. The presentation we're going to get into deals with majority of the time frame after the ending of the Old Testament, while at the same token being, quote, Old Testament based and understanding philosophy, doctrine, and culture. We do not on this channel promote the worship of anyone besides the creator of heaven and earth. I am not what you would call messianic, and I say that in no disrespect. So, brothers and sisters, in this particular case, we have it to where from the timing of creation to, brothers and sisters, if we will, 430 BCE. That is while the Persian Empire was in rule. And we're going to talk about that Persian Empire in this presentation, brothers and sisters. So if there's any questions, if there's any comments, please let it be known for edification purposes. Let us, brothers and sisters, get into the matter. A citation from the internet and an artifact. Tuat Center was Tamatit, the Jewish town. Traditions reported by Arab historians fixed the arrival of the first Jews as early as 5 CE. And in large numbers in the year of the elephant, 570 AD or CE, which coincided with the foundation of the settlement in the oasis. Hebrew inscriptions dating from 1329 were discovered there. So what can we get out of that? Tuat, brothers and sisters, we want to show with the laser pointing you see there, is a place in modern day Algeria. So I say this going into this, no disrespect, not to sound haughty, belligerent, or so forth. When we call this history not for the novice, these are the kind of things that we're talking about. Not many brothers and sisters of the house of Israel, not to be funny or disrespectful, get into the sources that are outside of the scriptures itself. We want to, as we've been trying to point out, raise the bar of what we're talking about. The Hebrew that you're seeing on this side, brothers and sisters, come from writing that was found in the land of Algeria. So while you had, as they want to use the term Jewish, which we know in ancient times we'll say Israel, because that's not Esau after the conversion of the Khazars, if you will, traditions reported by Arab historians fix the arrival of the first Jews as early as 5 CE. Now, this is talking about a place in modern-day Algeria and northern Africa of today, and in large numbers in a, quote, year of the elephants, which coincided with the foundation of settlements in the oasis. So, brothers and sisters, if you had Hebrew inscriptions found in northern Africa dating from 1329, can it be hard to fathom, brothers and sisters, that there were people that were brought over as captives that knew Hebrew? For those who know where we're going, let's get into it. Let's go on, brothers and sisters. Citations from some sources. We ask you all again to subscribe to the channel, to comment, like, and share, brothers and sisters. It goes on to say, the Bible, and by that we are speaking of the Old Testament, mentions places that are today known in history as black populated places. According to Stephen Jacobs, he's citing in his book, Hebrew Heritage of Black Africa, the Assyrians were black. So when you go to a book written by Stephen Jacobs, who was not for all intents and purposes a brother, he stated that the Assyrians were black. Earlier today in the congregation Shomrei Habrit, a brother went over the matter of the Assyrians, as we will do in this presentation as well. So you can get that book, Hebrew Heritage of Black Africa, online and see the citation and such. The Assyrians were known earlier as very intimate with the Israelites. There are kings mentioned in the Bible that are mentioned by the Assyrians. Yehu, mentioned in the book of Kings. Menahem, mentioned in the book of Kings. Hosea, mentioned in the book of Kings. Pequach, mentioned in the book of Kings. And Ahaz, mentioned as Jehoahaz in the book of Kings. Those and other kings mentioned in the scriptures were also mentioned by the Assyrians. So why do we do that? Why do we go over that? Just to show evidence, brothers and sisters, that the existence of the children of Israel is not a myth. See, Israel, we got to go outside of our historical records to prove our existence. While at the same token, we know we don't need to go outside of our doctrine of culture, outside of the Torah, to know what to do. I can cite the Assyrians while not calling upon their gods in prayer and praise. I can cite the Babylonian record without calling upon the Babylonian gods. I could cite the Roman records when not calling upon their gods. So we want to understand the distinction between historical citations and cultural citations. Let's go on. There are Egyptian rulers mentioned in the Bible. Tahaka, a priest, also known as Hafra in the book of Jeremiah, and Necho. Pharaoh, a priest, also known, brothers and sisters, as Hafra, is mentioned in the book of Jeremiah. Jeremiah was a prophet, pardon me as I get the charger. Jeremiah was a prophet of the tribe of Levi. Did you know, brothers and sisters, that the same one of priest is mentioned by the historian Herodotus? Did you know that Necho, who was called Necho Rahembre of Dynasty 26 of Egypt, he sadly is the one who assassinated our king Josiah of the tribe of Judah when he tried to go and help the Assyrians against the Babylonians, and then winded up losing. You see that in the scriptures in the book of 2 Kings, chapter 24. The point we want to emphasize is that the scriptures are intertwined with history and is not the history separated from black people. Everyone who we mention here may have not been righteous. Actually, when looking at it, Yehu, Menahem, Hosea, Pekah, Ahaz, Tahaka, Apries, Necho, all the people mentioned here, none of them were righteous. Not that anybody's perfect, but, you know, looking at it upon it like that. And did you know that Ezekiel, the prophet, spoke against the kingdom of Egypt, which coincided to dynasty 26 of Egypt? When the pharaohs were saying that the river is mine, I made it for myself. I have been on the Nile River, brothers and sisters. Ain't no man make that river. So let us go on in this particular case, if we will. Ezekiel 37, verse 11. Then he said unto me, Son of man, these bones are the whole house of Israel. Behold, they say, our bones are dried up, and our hope is lost. We are clean cut off. What does this mean, and what does this say, brothers and sisters? Wayomer Eli, and he said unto me, Ben Adam, son of man, ha'atzamot ha'ele kal beit Yisrael. These bones, even all of these, are the house of Israel. Hine omrim, they say, Yabshu atzmotenu, our bones are dried up. Yabash meaning dry. Wa'abda tikwatenu, and our hope is perished. Our hope is lost. Nig zarnu lanu, from the word gazar, meaning to be cut off or disintegrated in that particular meaning. So what do we want to point out, brothers and sisters? What does it mean when it says our hope is lost? The scriptures, letting the book speak line upon line, if you will. It says, our hope is in the name of Yah. Whose name are we calling on now, brothers and sisters? Are we lost to the Most High? Yah. When it says our bones are dried up, we are clean cut off. Cut off from your land. Cut off from your culture. Cut off from your history. Cut off from your family. Cut off in your union with your spouse. So, brothers and sisters, we want to not stay dried up. We don't want to be lost from the Most High. And we want to break generational curses of matters of like being clean cut off. We don't want to be cut off. We want to be, for the lack of a better term, put on. Next slide, please. Some kind of sources. In the movie Roots, which was aired in 1977, there was a scene in which an actor says to, quote, Kunta, they seem to be a strange new tribe of people that are lost. Now, for those who are familiar with the movie, brothers and sisters, right? You may be familiar with that line in that particular case. When it says there seem to be a new strange tribe of people that are lost. So, brothers and sisters, our bones are dried up. We are clean cut off. What people, though a brother himself did take the DNA test, what people rely on looking at an ancestry by paying somebody else for it? The statement in Ezekiel saying we are clean cut off is due to the fact that people are saying we are cut off from our land, culture, heritage, history, laws. Thus, it also says our hope is lost. The hope for the future is where? Essence Magazine and other platforms speaking on the future of, quote, Black America, speak of it as being very dim. So, brothers and sisters, this is part of what we want to get into in this particular case. I thank you all for joining on. We're going to continue. I thank you all for subscribing to the channel for those who did. And feel free to share it, and it is definitely appreciated. Next slide. Black Men, Obsolete, Single, Dangerous. Written by Haki Mahubuti. A book that my mother got for me when I was 15 years old. I still have that copy of that book. It's a book called Black Men, Obsolete, Single, Dangerous, ? The African American Family and Transition. Essays in Discovery, Solution, and Hope. Even that author is talking about hope, as Ezekiel talked about hope. Haki Mahubuti. I heard him speak on TV. He's a very intelligent person. Black Culture and Black Consciousness. 30th Anniversary Edition by Lawrence W. Levine. Afro-American Folk Thought from Slavery to Freedom. When you hear a brother make the citation of the people who were enslaved in Florida, where they were told, we brought you here to serve us, not to serve God, that's in that book there, Black Culture and Black Consciousness. So you may want to pick up certain books to get into an understanding of a matter so we can see what the prophets were talking about and how you can show that connection. Next slide, please. History, Not for the Novice, Part 2. It was supposed to have been done actually in September, but it got postponed until last night. It wasn't done last night due to mediating circumstances. So we're doing it tonight, and I thank you all for joining on. All right, going in on Hebrew linguistics in honor of his mother. That is a video that was done last week, brothers and sisters. If you care to donate to PayPal, you can use the number above, 908-587-4841. If you want any books, you can use the same number. I can be reached by being text. I can be reached by WhatsApp, and I can be reached by being given a phone call. Brothers and sisters, in that particular case. So, looking upon it, giving a shout out to the person who did the flyers, a sister I know named Taylor B. So, don't know if the person is listening or so, but just want to give an acknowledgement to the person who did the flyers in that particular case. All right. Next slide, please. The maps we will be discussing. All right. Wanderings of Abraham. Now, the date that they got there may be different than the date that we went over before, but anybody worth their grain of salt will tell you any date really before 600 BCE, and many times is a hypothesis or a guess, because they had different ways of counting years in the ancient world. So don't let the matter of saying, okay, one says 2000 and the other one says 1700 or the other one says 1950. Don't let that, brothers and sisters, deter you from studying these kind of matters and so forth and so on, because even as recent as, say, Harriet Tubman, there's a matter whether she was born 1820, 1821, some say 1822. Now, mind you, she was born, may she rest in peace, during the era when Thomas Jefferson was alive. That's when she was born. The third president of the United States. Harriet Tubman died when the 40th president, Ronald Reagan, was a baby. Do we see a connection just with that real quick? When Thomas Jefferson was alive is when Harriet Tubman was born. When Harriet Tubman was an elder is when the president Ronald Reagan was born. Thomas Jefferson being the third president, Ronald Reagan being the 40th. Some of us may remember Reagan. I know I do. So I just want to show that, state that, brothers and sisters, that when we're dealing with time frame in this history, it's not too far-fetched to grasp on too. So let's look at this, brothers and sisters. Canaan, Syria, Moabite, Edomite, Ammonite, Canaanite, Phoenician. I want to take the time out now and circle that particular part. Phoenician. And I want to, brothers and sisters, take out the time now and highlight Aramaic, looking at it like that. Do you know that Aramaic, the language, according to the book of Josephus, is similar to the Hebrew language? Did you know that the word Phoenician is a Greek word, though they were not Greeks themselves? It comes from a Greek word meaning purple, the color purple. These are things, brothers and sisters, when we call, no disrespect intended, history not for the novice, what we're talking about. What if I told you that the Israelite tribes of Zebulun and Asher were part of the Phoenician people? And like in the Exodus, there was a mixed multitude. So you had Hamites of Canaan that were Phoenicians, as well as Shemites of the house of Israel that were also Phoenicians. And that they traded in purple, so thus they were called Phoenician from the Greek word meaning purple. Ezekiel chapter 27 talks about how the Israelites did trade things, and purple was one of those things that they traded in. Sidebar to that. Wearing purple is what the prophet Daniel in the Bible was made to wear while in Babylon. It had a particular significance to it. For the record, the word for purple in Hebrew is the word aragaman. You understand? If I can be heard, brothers and sisters, please give me a 1. If I can be heard, brothers and sisters, please give me a 1. So as we look, brothers and sisters, in this here laser pointer, Jerusalem, Damascus, Ur of Chaldees. So Abraham would go from Ur of Chaldees, brothers and sisters, if we will, and then migrate downward. To the people who gave a 1, I appreciate that. So that way I could know I could be heard. Thank you for that. Thank you for taking out the time. And I want to say this on a Saturday night, if you will. You could be out doing anything. Even for Israelites, it's not a holy night. Not that it's a wicked night, but it's not like a holy night. You could be doing anything at 9-something Eastern Standard Time or whatever time it is, but yet you chose to listen to a brother go over history, and I appreciate that. It means a lot. So respect your audience is what it boils down to. So if we will, brothers and sisters, this is something we want to point out for edification purposes. Abraham, having been in the land of Canaan, went into Egypt. Now, before the Suez Canal was built in the 19th century, right? Did you know that the people of Egypt, they didn't call themselves Egyptians? And Israel, the Egyptians, as they were called, did not call themselves Mizraim. Brothers and sisters, into the Kemetic understanding. The Israelites did not call themselves Chabiru. So Israel, Egyptians did not call themselves Mizraim. And the people of Kemet, the people of Samatawi, the people of Tameri, the people of Tamehu, that are called Egyptians, let it be known, brothers and sisters, the Israelites did not call themselves Chabiru. Those are bywords given to one another. The Israelites called the people later on called Egyptians Mizraim for their own reason. You read about the Kabiru in the Amarna records that dates to the time of Akhenaten of Dynasty 18 of Egypt. You read about, brothers and sisters, the Apiru during the time of what they call the New Kingdom of Egypt, during the time of Ramses, brothers and sisters. So these are things we want to point out for edification purposes. So let us continue on with the time allotted. Assyria, Babylon, and Judah. 2 Kings 15:29. Josiah was king of Judah when Babylon defeated Assyria in 609 BCE. Josiah was assassinated by Necho of Dynasty 26 of Egypt. Brothers and sisters, Necho, we spoke about earlier in this presentation. He's written in our scriptures. Just as much as there is in Egypt a record about Sanballat and what they refer to as the Elephantine Papyrus. Elephantine, brothers and sisters, was called Yeb or Y-E-B in history. Israelites lived there. Also, Israelites was in Egypt in a place called Takpankes. Takpankes, that is from the Egyptian word ta, meaning land, and pankes in Egyptian means black. Takpankes means the land of the black, and there were Israelites there from the tribe of Judah. Does the defense rest on the color of the children of the Israelites? When the Egyptians and the Israelites had, for the lack of a better term, beef, if we will, they didn't do what the later on Caucasians did and said, your nose looks like this because of that, or your complexion is like this because of that. Brothers and sisters, it was a cultural matter. Israelites and Philistines were not friends. What if I told you, nonetheless, that the Philistines were called the Peleset, and what you refer to as the sea peoples? In the Bible, in Judges chapter 5, Deborah says, why doth Dan dwell in ships? Dan is a tribe of the house of Israel. You understand? Shalom, Hebrew boy, and having to go to work. I got to work tomorrow morning. I know what that life is about. So I hope you have a good night. Though I think you're my elder, even though your name is Hebrew boy in the chat. But you have a good night. Thank you for joining on with us. So looking upon it in that particular case, if we will, they of the tribe of Dan, in the book that I wrote, Egypt Talk and Writing, was called the Denyen, that was of the sea merchants. Babylon came to its power in 626 BCE under Nabopolassar, and his son is the famous Nebuchadnezzar. This Nebuchadnezzar is mentioned in 2 Kings chapter 24. Jehoiakim was taken captive with Ezekiel. So, brothers and sisters, while there are scriptural citations, we want to take out the time to read one of them, if not all of them. And let us look, if we will, at 2 Kings. Thank you for the time. 2 Kings 15 brothers and sisters, in this particular manner. And it says the following. 15 verse 29. In the days of Pekah, king of Israel, came Tiglath-Pileser, king of Assyria, and took Ion and Abel Beth Maacah, and Yanoah, and Kadesh, and Hazor, and Galilee, and Galilee, and all the land of Naphtali, and carried them captive to Assyria. Did you know, brothers and sisters, that the ancient nations did not deny the existence of one another? Did you know that Egypt and the Egyptians are mentioned over 600 times in the scriptures? I state again. Did you know that the Egyptians and Egypt is mentioned over 600 times in the scriptures? So it doesn't hurt us to study a little bit about that particular matter. We went over some of the names of the pharaohs that are in the scriptures. From Avaris to Alabama, the journey of the Hebrews. Brothers and sisters, that is a book shown here. You can get this book online for $7. All right. From Avaris to Alabama, I'm advertising the book in this particular case, if we will. What is Avaris? Avaris is the later name for what was called also Tel El Dab'ah, also called Pi Ra'amsu, also called Hut Rawet by the Egyptians. When you go into what they call the Middle Kingdom of Egypt and look up the matter with Pharaoh Ha'ankef and Pharaoh Sobek-Hotep of Dynasty 13, I'm not going to spoil it. Get the book and get the information. But you'll begin to see, not only, no disrespect intended, do they have the color of Ramses wrong. We know Yul Brenner, Ramses was not from Russia. They got the dynasty wrong about the Exodus because it was not in the new kingdom of Egypt. Not understanding when the scriptures use what is referred to as an anachronism, and why you see Ramses mentioned in the book of Exodus when it said they built for the Pharaoh treasure cities, Pitom El Ramses. Those things are discussed, brothers and sisters, in this book here, Egypt Talk and Writing, for those who are interested. You can look this up online and patronize a brother. Next slide. ShomreHabrit.com. Your spiritual journey awaits. I've known Moreh Yiftach for over some course of years. And I want to say and land back in something that he said earlier in teaching on the channel. And that is, he nor I are the same people or persons that we were, say, 20-something years ago. You understand? Now, us both claiming the tribe of Dan or Dan, who would have known that us two would come together and do lessons together on Shabbat and holy days. For those who follow a brother on Facebook, and the channel is promoted, it is an honor to even be on said channel, because you can't put everybody on your channel. And brothers and sisters, it has helped me spiritually as well to be able to know on how to handle certain matters and certain things in that particular case. The Medes and the Persians were not one kingdom until the era of Cyrus II, who in 550 BCE defeated Astyages of the Medes. Now let's look at this real quick. And we want to, with the pen, all right, circle where it says my definition of a circle, all right, where it speaks upon the matter of Cyrus. Do you know Cyrus is mentioned by the Greek historian Herodotus? Do you know, brothers and sisters, that Cyrus is mentioned in the scriptures? Do you know, brothers and sisters, that the relatives of Cyrus ruled in Egypt's 27th dynasty? We already went over the fact of, in part, Dynasty 26, mentioning Necho, which is mentioned in the Book of Kings in the Bible. We already are now getting into, or we're now getting into, pardon, the matter say here with Cyrus, whose relatives started what is Dynasty 27 of Egypt. Cambyses being the son of such. Darius being a cousin of such. See how all of this history intertwines. The Babylonians fell to the Medes in 539 BCE, and the Israelites got some reprieve. So, brothers and sisters, when we went over the timeline earlier, there was a reason for that. We want to now, brothers and sisters, read the part in the scriptures in the book of Ezra, if we will. Shalom, brother Uziel Yisrael. Let us go, if we will, brothers and sisters, in the book of Ezra. We're going to go to Ezra chapter 1, verse 1, and see what it says. Now in the first year of Cyrus, king of Persia, that the word of Yah by the mouth of Jeremiah might be fulfilled, Yah stirred up the spirit of Cyrus, king of Persia, that he made a proclamation throughout all his kingdom, and put it also in writing, saying, thus says Cyrus, king of Persia, the Lord God of heaven hath given me the kingdoms of the earth. Let's stop right there. Remember, Dynasty 27 of Egypt was that of the 32 dynasties of Egypt. Dynasty 27 was that of the Persians ruling in there. We went over earlier about Nehemiah of the Israelites getting permission from the Persians to go to the land of Israel. So when Cyrus said that the kingdoms of the earth have been given to him, he wasn't lying. The difference between Cyrus, though the Persians had their own god, they, or gods, you understand, he knew who to give credit to, say, in that case. It goes on to say that he made a proclamation throughout all his kingdom and put it in writing, saying, thus saith Cyrus, the Lord God of heaven hath given me all the kingdoms of the earth, and he hath charged me to build him my house at Jerusalem, which is in Judah. Who is there among you of all his people? His God be with him, and let him go up to Jerusalem, which is in Judah, and build the house of the Lord God of Israel. He is the God which is in Jerusalem. Why do we want to point that out in reading that? This is talking about, brothers and sisters, the era in the Israelite history known as the Second Temple era, ERA. And the matter of the Second Temple becomes important because spiritually that fell because not of idolatry of Israel, it's because Israel wasn't getting along with each other. It's the same reason why in ancient Egypt, during Dynasty 20 and Dynasty 21, you find the Ethiopians or the Nubians able to go into Egypt and rule in there because the indigenous Egyptians were not getting along. It's the same reason why, brothers and sisters, they talk about Compton, California being gentrified because black people there don't get along. It's the same reason why Harlem in New York is gentrified because black people don't get along. Internally, when things don't get along, just like heaven forbid with the HIV virus, when your body doesn't get along, things called opportunistic infections come in. You understand? So in the case of, say, opportunistic infections being these other nations coming in and being able to have sway because individual people are not getting along. It goes on to say, brothers and sisters, we already read Ezra. Understood. Thank you. Let's go on to the next slide. Thank you. Elephantine matter in day of Persia. There were Israelites in Elephantine, Egypt, where they had a temple dedicated to Yahoo, though unfortunately they did worship idols there also. Now, the temple in Elephantine, Egypt, dates to the timing, brothers and sisters, before the Greek rule. Greece came to power in the world under Alexander during the era of 331, 332 BCE. During the time of the Israelites in Elephantine, Egypt, is during the time when the Persians were ruling. That's why you find in the Elephantine papyrus about them speaking to Darius II, who was a Persian ruler. You can research this information. This is partly why we call it History Not for the Novice, Part 2. The Persians during this time had matters with the Greeks in the Battle of Marathon in 490 BCE and Macedon in 492 BCE. If they are saying that there was, brothers and sisters, a Israelite temple in southern Egypt by what they call the first cataract of the Nile, when the Persians were ruling in Egypt, that shows us that the Israelites were about traveling to African places. When the diaspora speaks of, Israelites mainly went to African places. Israel, we got to stop this in Africa. And when I say this, and I mean like disrespecting, certainly the landmass. We can't take the European Khazar spirit, him this and him that. Now, mind you, sidebar, if we will, when we say ham in the Bible in the book of Genesis, the Hebrew word there is the word ham. Have you ever heard of the Code of Hammurabi? Do you know, as pointed out also on this channel, that Hammurabi, which is the Babylonian law, and you know that Babylon as a kingdom was started by the Ethiopian Cushite people. So the Ethiopians / Nubians / Cushites were all the way into the area of what we call the Middle East as well. Mind you, that term Middle East came about in 1902 by a guy named Mahan, who was an East Indian, by the way, when you look that up. So now getting back into the point, brothers and sisters, of this. Rabbi or Rabbi or Rab means great one. Hammurabi. Knowing that in linguistics, the S and the SH is interchangeable, as well as the letter B and the letter P. So Hammurabi means him the great. When you read about Rabsaris in the scriptures, Rab means much, many, or great. Israelites, do we know we say Todah Rabbah? That Rabbah means a lot or great. Thanks greatly. Thanks a lot. So when we get into the linguistic matter, it's not that far-fetched. See, you can't get into while raising the bar and not get into linguistics, get into maps, get into genealogy, get into kingdoms, get into timelines. Persia too had rule over Egypt. We've been talking about that already, Dynasty 27. They also ruled in Egypt in Dynasty 31. Cyrus, though I thought it was in the past he ruled in Egypt, it was actually his son that did rule in Egypt named Cambyses. Then after Cambyses, his cousin Darius I ruled in Egypt. Darius I is mentioned in the scriptures. Xerxes is the son of Darius I, and Ahasuerus is whom is mentioned in the book of Esther. Do you see why this history becomes so pertinent? Why this history becomes so important, brothers and sisters? We do not, brothers and sisters, want to neglect that particular matter, if we will. Let's go on, if we will, for edification purposes. We want to point out that during the reign of Augustus, Israelites who taught about the Roman gods were not taxed. First Maccabees chapter 1, verse 1 through 4. Sidebar notes. Alexander, a son of Philip, was Alexander III. He ruled from 336 to 323 BCE. He also had province from Egypt to India. It is known, too, he tried to take over Ethiopia, but was defeated. When you call who they refer to, say, as Makeda or Candace in certain cases in history, when Alexander attempted to go down as far as Ethiopia, that didn't work. You lost. They don't really talk about that unless you're really getting up into that history matter like that. The Greeks brought Hellenism and tried to make everything Greek. Let's go and read in First Maccabees in the Apocrypha, this book here. We're going to go to, they're going to read all the citations with the time allotted. But brothers and sisters, we're going to go into First Maccabees chapter 3, verse 48. And it reads as follows. And this is talking about the Maccabees and what they did when they got their stuff back from the Seleucids. The Seleucids being part of the Seleucid Empire, which came after Alexander. And laid open the book of the law, wherein the heathen had sought to paint the likenesses of the images. That's in First Maccabees 3:48. You mean that the Greeks, the heathen in this case, tried to put the images inside the records of the Israelites? Hellenism? Brothers and sisters, in the book that I wrote, Egypt Talk and Writing, giving honor to the Most High to even write a book, I pointed out, brothers and sisters, that when they show Yul Brynner as Ramses and Charleston Heston as a Hebrew, they were able to show an Egyptian looking like the European, and brothers and sisters, a Hebrew looking like the European. Even though the language of the Egyptians is Afro, and the Hebrew, the language is Afro-Asiatic. Metuneta, or the language of the Egyptians, does not go back to Europe. Hebrew, the language, does not go back to Europe. Yet in a movie by Cecil B. DeMille, they are able to show a European and show an Egyptian and European, both an Egyptian and a Hebrew, both as European. How is that possible? Because both the Egyptians and the Hebrews were conquered by the Europeans. The Ethiopians were not. So while making that movie in the 1950s, they were able to show the Egyptians haven't been conquered by the Europeans and them chopping off the nose of the Sphinx. When I was in Egypt, when going into the Cairo Museum, they actually show a picture of them showing them with the nose chopped off, as if that's not so disrespectful. They have that as part of their museum exhibit. So you have, brothers and sisters, the Egyptians in that movie and the Hebrews shown in European images. But they couldn't show the Ethiopians as that, because Kush or Ethiopia wasn't conquered by the Europeans. What am I saying? Just as much as they sought to paint the images inside the records of the Israelites as Greeks, changing the story, if you will, by showing the pictures in that case. Maybe not having a history that they themselves like. So they try to attach themselves onto another people's history, which goes into the matter that shows you the Tanakh's validity, the validity of the said Old Testament, because they ain't all pretty. You understand? So Brothers and sisters, let's continue. First Maccabees goes on. Alexander won both the battle of Issus and Gargamella. Cassander, Ptolemy, Seleucus, and Antigonus. They were the successors of Alexander, and Antigonus was replaced by Lysimachus. The Ptolemies and the Seleucids followed after Alexander from 320 to 198 BCE. Ptolemy took Israel to Egypt and Cyrene. Cyrene, brothers and sisters, can anybody in the chat type in what land Cyrene is today? Can anybody in the chat type that in? I'm going to ask that question in the chat. What land is Cyrene? If we were to put it in a modern map of today. Ptolemy II took Israelites who were in Alexandria, Egypt, and had them write the Septuagint. This he wanted for his library. The Greeks were not the authors of the Septuagint. Antiochus III defeated Ptolemy IV and Ptolemy V. Seleucus IV was defeated by the Israelites when he tried to rid Judah due to the growing power of Rome. Why do we want to point this out? Because it gets into, brothers and sisters, the history of the Ptolemies. And it gets into the history, brothers and sisters, of the Seleucids and what happened in that particular case. Again, a brother is asking, what is the land of Cyrene in a modern map? Does anybody care to type that into the chat, brothers and sisters? I'm going to highlight that particular case, if we will. Thank you, Sister Itia. Yes, Libya, the land west of Egypt. Cyrene is in modern day Libya. So if you had Ptolemy or Ptolemy the First, quote unquote Ptolemy Soda, taking Israelites from Egypt, taking Israelites to Egypt, in Cyrene, they were being brought to African places by the Europeans. The Israelites that were already in Alexandria, Egypt, remember Jeremiah, centuries before that, speaks about the Israelites that was in a place called Tachpanches, which we went over. Egypt, and had them write the Septuagint. In the Septuagint, which no disrespect intended, does not contain the New Testament, the explanation and iterate concerning Moses putting his hand in his bosom and it coming out says that when he put his hand back in his bosom, it turned back to the color as it was before. The book of Josephus speaking upon that matter of Moses putting his hand in his bosom and taking it out. It said that it turned to white as chalk and then turned back afterward to, and I want to type this word in. This is according to Josephus, pointed out in the book I wrote, wanted. Back to its wanted color again. What does wanted mean? Usual or custom? If Moses was not accustomed to being colored of a white man, what color perhaps can we think of Moses being? Antiochus IV, the brother of Seleucus IV, disposed Onias III, the priest, and promoted nudity in Israel. When Demetrius I, the successor of Alexander IV, came to power, Onias IV went to African places for peace, since the land of Israel was being lost from the true Israelites. Gentrification, if we will, in that particular case. You have Antiochus IV, the Seleucids, the Ptolemies, and all of them, though they were not the best of friends, their commonality was to go against the house of Israel. European Jews and people of the KKK are not best friends, but they have a commonality in that neither one group really respects or like quote unquote black people, speaking in general when I say such. Because for you to have a doctrine that says that Ham in the Bible has big lips because he lied, and you teaching that to your children, I can't, while not coming off on the channels on YouTube as quote unquote racist, I cannot say or look at Caucasian or white man in his eye after telling my daughter who's 16 that she is not to be with a man that is not of her own people, that I don't have any kind of feelings or anything like that. I can't do that in said same comfort. You understand? Looking upon it in that particular case. All right? Let's go on, brothers and sisters. Carthage, Hannibal, and the Punic Wars. You know there's a video about Hannibal, the nephew of Hasdrubal, shown him as a man of color. See, color becomes only a matter because other people decided to try to sit there and give a different color of the people. That's the only reason why it becomes a discussion. If you wasn't Greeks trying to sit there and picture images in the record of the Israelites, if you wasn't digging up brothers and sisters, and I say this, Pan-African brothers and sisters seem to have a thrill to looking up at the dead pharaohs and things like that. When I was in Egypt, I saw the mummy of Hatshepsut. I saw the mummy of the wife of Akhenaten, forget her name at the moment. I saw the mummy of brothers and sisters Ramses, Seti. I saw the mummy, brothers and sisters, of some of the people that I spoke about in my book, Egypt Talk and Writing. So while looking at that particular case, and you're looking at saying, oh, they had quote unquote Caucasian features, you can look at the Hausa tribe in northern Nigeria of today that's blacker than me in complexion, but they got some of them straight noses and some of them got what you call thin lips. So if you want to talk about the phenotype or the genotype matter, you still got to know and understand the ethnicity matter. The Carthaginians were akin to the Jews in blood. This is according to Will Durant, who is an author. The people of Carthage had a leader named Hamilcar who fought against Rome's leader Regulus. Hamilcar was called Barca, which is translated as lightning. Barca means lightning. For those who do know, in Hebrew, the word barak means lightning, like the lightning in the sky. We're going to go on. Carthage lost Sardinia and Corsica to Rome due to the bad decision-making that Barca did. He went against his people. Hasdrubal was the son-in-law to Hamilcar. When the famous Hannibal was 7 years old, Hamilcar, who was his uncle, made him swear that he would avenge Rome. And many of us already know of the Punic Wars in that particular case. In 230 BCE, the Romans went against the Greeks in the Illyrian War. This was due to trade. It goes on to say in the next point. In the year 219 BCE, Hannibal with Gallic tribes went against Rome. So, brothers and sisters, you can also pause and read this on your own volition and your own timing when this is uploaded. Again, I am thankful to the people who took out the time to listen, comment, like, share, and subscribe. Let's go on to the next slide, brothers and sisters. Rome, the Seleucids and the Hebrews. The people of Anatolia made a league against Philip V and befriended Rome. Rome made war against Philip V, then reinstated him. Scipio Africanus, we're familiar with that guy, right? And Lucius fought against Antiochus III. Antiochus III, brothers and sisters, is the father of Antiochus IV. Let's go on and see how this history connects. Perseus made a league with Seleucus IV, the brother of Antiochus IV. So Antiochus III is the father of Seleucus IV and Antiochus IV. This is how the history ties in. Perseus was defeated by Lucius Paulus and was led as a captive to Rome. Mummius of Rome defeated the Greeks in 146 BCE. In 154 BCE, Portugal fought against Rome for 16 years. Their leader, Viriathus, was assassinated. Why do I want to point that out, brothers and sisters? Is in part for this reason here. Portugal fought against Rome for 16 years. Portugal and Spain had some years after that, in the 1490s AD or CE or so on, the thing called the Treaty of Tordesillas, where they divided the earth for their own commercial and trade. Now, for those who are familiar, knowing that these nations teach their children certain things, Hadrian of Rome was a Spaniard. Again, the Spaniards and the Portuguese are related nationally. Hadrian is the Roman emperor in the second century the second century CE or AD, changed the name of the land of Israel to Palestine in order to try to rid the memory of the Israelites in there. The Roman historian Hadrian was a Spaniard. Did you know the Spaniards and the Portuguese are related nationally, as pointed out? And that the first ships to come in slavery were set off by the Portuguese? Did they know who they were taking to Lisbon in Portugal? Did they know who they were taking, brothers and sisters? As pointed out by Basil Davidson in his book called A History of West Africa. When they took them to Madrid, because the first slave ships went north before going west. And the ones eventually that went west went to the West Indies first and then branched off to South and then North America, aka the United States then. The Israelites were in the matters of all the events of the world of their day. Hanukkah came about because of the result of the Beth Zur battle in 164 BCE, 4 years after the Pitna battle and 15 years before the Corinth battle. Simon of the Maccabees is recorded as king because he got rid of the Seleucid garrisons in Judea and Gezer. What do we want to point out? Gezer was a land that was in the land of Canaan, but given to Solomon by the Egyptians. When you go into the book of First Kings, see again how all this history intertwines. There is a thing called the Gezer calendar in archaeology showing ancient Hebraic writing. Again, see how all of this intertwines one with another. It goes into saying this, brothers and sisters. Simon of the Maccabees, which is the brother of Judas Maccabeus, right, got rid of the Seleucid. We remember of the Seleucids, who were the kingdom that came up after Alexander from Seleucus. Simon is called king in the book of the historian Tacitus. I'm going to write that in there. See, you know why I take a pleasure and do respect not being funny or nothing and citing like 18 different sources? Because I remember when Israelites and Kemetic brothers were debating, and one of the things they said about Israelites is, y'all don't go into things outside of the Bible. The only thing you cite is the Bible. I hardly cited the Bible in this presentation in over an hour. And I'm Israel, giving honor to the Most High repetitively. See, when you're comfortable in your understanding, you're not, quote, hesitant to go in outside sources. Because the truth is going to show its way out to be what it is. Antiochus IV was defeated also by John Hyrcanus and Judah. John Hyrcanus and Judah were brothers. That Judah is talking about a person, being the sons of Simon. Simon is the brother of Judas Maccabeus. John Hyrcanus, therefore, is the nephew of Judas Maccabeus. During the era of Simon, the Seleucids sent Antiochus VII, who defeated the Israelites but was later killed by the Parthians. The Parthians were workers for the Persians. Brothers and sisters, remember the prophecy in the book of Daniel showing how that history intertwines? That Persia is the bear that stood up on one side and had 3 ribs in the mouth between the teeth. The 3 ribs in the mouth in Daniel chapter 7, verse 5 in the scriptures. In the Bible, Daniel 7, verse 5. Those 3 ribs represented Lydia, Egypt, and Babylon. Brothers and sisters, it says their lives were prolonged for a season and a time, understood by Israelites to be a length of over 1,000 years. So when the Persian Empire fell, brothers and sisters, to the Greeks, you have it to where Darius III was defeated by Alexander in the Battle of Gaugamela. But remembering Israel, that their lives were prolonged for a season and a time. So it's not surprising, brothers and sisters, when you begin to sit there and see that the Parthians were workers for the Persians. So even though Persia wasn't a kingdom, they still were a people. We want to point that out for edification purposes. And when I say kingdom, it's like an empire kingdom known for ruling the world in that case. Next part. Julius Caesar. We're familiar with that guy, right? He was played by, brothers and sisters, the guy who assassinated Lincoln, John Wilkes Booth, and mentioned by William Shakespeare. Let's go on and see what it says. After the era of John Hyrcanus, the son of Simon, we see Aristobulus, then Alexander Jannaeus, and then a woman named Alexandra. It goes on to say, the sons of Alexandra were Aristobulus II, who seized power, and Hyrcanus, who was controlled by Antipater to join with Aretas III, an Ishmaelite. Now, why does that become important? The sons of Alexandra, Alexandra being a woman, Aristobulus, who seized power, and Hyrcanus, who was controlled by Antipater to join Aretas III. Antipater is the father of Herod. That's straight up Esau right there. Idumeans, if you will. So you see the Edomites and the Ishmaelites mentioned in the book of Psalms 83 already joined in the confederacy against the house of Israel. The Nabateans were those Ishmaelites, brothers and sisters, in that particular case. Nebaioth is a descendant of Ishmael. The Idumeans were the Edomites, and that's the name that they were called by the Romans. So again, tying the history together and giving honor to the Most High, creator, maker of heaven and earth, is not too hard to figure out. So let's go on, brothers and sisters. It says, and we want to show this with the laser pointer, Julius Caesar eventually took over and made Antipater procurator and Hyrcanus the ethnarch. Procurator, like a ruler. The Edomites and the Romans were friends. That's why you may see in the Dead Sea Scrolls about the Romans being called Edomites. Not ethnically, but politically. Edom and Rome were attempting to rid Israel when Antipater died of poison. Mark Antony made Herod and his brother Phasael tetrarch. Mark Antony lost to Augustus, so Herod made friends with Augustus. Augustus was also known as Octavian, the first Roman emperor. See again how all that history ties in into what we're talking about, brothers and sisters. History not for the novice. Let's go on to the next slide with the time allotted. Caligula, the Edomites, and Hadrian. Agrippa I and Caligula were friends. Caligula gave Judea, Samaria, Galilee, and Perea, to Agrippa. Caligula was a person who, and I say this in no disrespect, having 3 sisters of my own, and all 3 of my sisters are gorgeous, there is no way, shape, form, or fashion that a brother will be interested in doing what Caligula did with his sister. No. We don't do that, house of Yisrael. Caligula, in his ways, was against the ways of the Israelites. You understand? You don't make children with your sister. You do not marry your horse. You do not, as we pointed out earlier in the Congregation Shombray Habreach channel, because you wanted a son so bad, you try to sit there and say your daughter is your son. You don't promote abortion. Pardon me, you don't either, but you don't promote adultery. And one of the reasons why they wanted to, even in the Roman Senate, quote unquote, get at Caligula, wasn't because of adultery. It was because of the type of adultery. Pardon me for belching. Bring everybody around and let us have orgy style threesomes, some refer to as menage a trois, so forth, with 1 woman and 2 men. But one of the men cannot be her husband. So adultery was not the case that made them upset. It was the fact of Caligula was saying, while you are quote unquote in today's term swapping, you could not be one of the swap mates while with somebody's with your wife at the same time. That's called gross, brothers and sisters, for the lack of a better term. You understand? The Romans eventually killed Agrippa. Agrippa II, the son of Agrippa I, aided by Nero of Rome, added Galilee and Perea to Agrippa's second realm. Antiochus IV, like Hadrian, both opposed circumcision. Hyrcanus made the Edomites become circumcised. Remember, Hyrcanus is of the Hasmoneans who came out of the Maccabees, who were Israelites. Between Antiochus IV and Hadrian, Nero, Domitian, and Nerva made circumcision banned. So we want to point that out, that they definitely, brothers and sisters, did not want the Israelites to continue in the custom of their ancestors. And we're going to conclude soon. We're not going to go all over 70 slides for more than one reason. The Israelites were the third world in their day, in that time. The other 2 worlds were the Edomites and the Romans. The Roman procurator named Florus stole from the temple. And this is the reason for the revolt that caused Nero to send Vespasian against the Israelites. Florus was a Roman procurator against the Israelites, by the way. The Israelites in Beth Taron defeated the Romans. Then the Israelites lost to the Romans, in part due to the internal matters among themselves. Vespasian went to Rome, and when Nero died and left Titus to besiege Jerusalem, Hadrian later named Jerusalem Alia Capitolina. The next major battle was the Kittos battle in the era of Trajan, then the Bar Kokhba revolt in the era of Hadrian. Why does this become important? Remember, brothers and sisters, the particular matter here when we spoke, for those following, thank you for that, Cyrene, in the matter with Ptolemy, taking Israelites to Egypt and to Cyrene. And the sister, thank you for that, Itia Yisrael, pointed out that Cyrene is in Libya. So now, when we get to this part right here, brothers and sisters, and it says about the Kittos battle, which was in the era of 115, 117 CE or AD, the Kittos battle was fought between the Israelites that descended from the Israelites brought to Libya / Cyrene by Ptolemy of the Greeks. They were there from the era of the Ptolemies all the way down to the era of the Roman emperors. And they wanted to get back into the land, and the army of Trajan of Rome prevented that, and that made the Israelites fight in what we call the Kittos battle. This is why we call this, brothers and sisters, history not for the novice. And while it is a quote-unquote Saturday night, I give, on a human level, everybody who decided to join on and participate to like, comment, share, let me know what you think. I am open to constructive criticism, and I want to do things on the sidebar to make the channel more, welcoming, put some music in it, change up how the PowerPoints look, those kind of things. So if you into that and you able to hear what I'm saying, give me a shout out, give me a call. You understand? 908-587-4841 to help me with that particular case. All right. I have, again, no problem receiving that. The shortened version and the extended version. From Avaris to Alabama, the journey of the Hebrews. And, brothers and sisters, from Assyria to America. Now, I want to show this right here. Author, let me do this part right here. Right? Show with the pen, if we will. Author, in the larger one, Vincent Hutchinson. For anybody who knows, I'm also my mother. And to the person or the people who say there may be something quote unquote wrong with Yeshaya because he's always talking about his mother who's deceased, let that be between you and the Most High God if you can't even approach your brother on that. I'm not even going to entertain folly with that. You understand? It's just, you'll be amazed at how people think about you. Some support you, some hate. Sidebar, I don't understand that whatsoever, because I would love to have a legacy left on by my children. I only got one child. So just want to point that out for edification purposes. Whoever you are, and this is not to take away from the history side or to the people who do support the channel and buy the books, may the Most High deal with you, and may we all gain mercy. Because Yah, the creator of heaven and earth, hears everything. The book of Daniel doesn't have, and I'm not a prophet, the book of Daniel doesn't have, thus saith the Lord, The book of Daniel in the Old Testament does not have the statement, thus saith the Lord. So how did Daniel know that people were talking against him? It's called the Most High letting him know. So no, as we pointed out in the beginning, there is absolutely, positively, and emphatically nothing wrong, nor does it make you a sissy or a mama's boy or a kept son or any other silly term for a son honoring his mother in that particular case. You understand? So getting back into this matter right here, if we will. From Avaris to Alabama, the journey of the Hebrews. This is the shortened version. You can get that online for $7. And we have here, from Assyria to America, Vincent Hutchinson. I named that in authorship in honor of my father. May my father rest in peace. So, brothers and sisters, we're going to end off right here. Just want to show where we're going to pick up at, brothers and sisters. And giving honor and praise unto the Most High, subscribe to the channel. We're going to pick up on this, brothers and sisters. So-called Monday night coming. That is to say, today being October 8th. October 10th on this channel at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'm going to make a link for it and share it on this in the description and inside the comments. And we're going to continue on in this said manner. Just want to show a prelude of what we're going to talk about in archaeology, the Lachish letter and the Tel Dan Stela. So, brothers and sisters, this was part 1 of this particular matter. Get the books. I appreciate it if you do. You can go and get it on Amazon. The one you see on the left side, From Avars to Alabama, is $7. The one you see on the right side, From Assyria to America, is the extended version. Or should I say, From Avars to Alabama is the shortened version. One being $7, the other being $20 for those who are interested. And giving honor and praise unto the Most High, the Creator, the Maker of heaven and earth. I pray and I hope that you all enjoy this, learn from this, and I am open to constructive criticism, brothers and sisters. To the people who are in the chat that I see, Hebrew boy, understand you had to make your move. Creator be with you. Mikael Yashar El Shalom. Sister Itia Yisrael Shalom. Truth be told, 3737 Shalom. Shelly Ma'at Fergie Shalom. Uziel Yisrael Shalom. And anybody else who may hear this live or hear it later on, shalom to you too as well. Most I be with you all. Have a good night. Remember, part 2 this coming Monday, Eastern Standard Time on this channel, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Please join us. Shalom. Shalom, shalom, family. I was trying my best to make sure that we didn't go over 2 hours. Understanding the people attention span. Because when I personally see videos that's like 4 or 5 hours, personally, what I do, loving history and going over things and having written 12 books, thanks to the Creator of heaven and earth for that spirit to do that. Brothers and sisters, I'll click like and subscribe to the channel and skim through your video if it's 4 and 5 hours. So treat people the way you want to be treated. I don't want to do 4 or 5 hour videos because they allow you to do, if I remember right, about 8 hours or something of that nature. You don't want to overburden the people, those who do support you, those who have any kind of respect for you and want to promote you and what you're about. And brothers and sisters, talking about promoting, let's not forget, if we will, Tyrone Webb, Elder Nakemia, and his Hint magazine, magcloud.com, magcloud.com. Hint magazine. Let's not forget, brothers and sisters, as shown, the Light Brew News, as pointed out before, for those who want to get literature out, get publications out, get information out. You can contact them in that particular manner. And family, this is what I'm asking before I conclude this. I am personally looking to get my website, and I'm going to type in my website here, Danite Publications.com. You can look that up when you get the chance. I'm looking for somebody who can help me make my website more feasible for eye-catching. I want to add some more things to it. I want to change it up. I want to make it more, for the lack of a better term, to where people will want to look at it. Presentation, if you will. So if anybody knows anybody who does that kind of work regarding websites, give them my telephone number, 908-587-4841, and let me know what you think about it. Shalom. Most I bless you all. Shalom. Etia wrote, I want and need all the ammunition I can have dealing with certain people. You have to be able to show tangible proof, sadly. Yeah, when dealing with that real quick, tangible proof. That's why most of the citations, while many people may feel the Bible is not tangible proof itself, that's why I cited many citations that was external to it. You understand? And I give honor on a human level to my teachers. May those who have deceased rest in peace. May those who are among us continue to live and be in peace. Now, I'm going to close out in this particular case, reading out of the Apocrypha, if we will, Ecclesiasticus chapter 3. And this is in part due to something that was stated as we read earlier. Hear me, your children. Pardon me, it says the opposite, sorry. Hear me, your father, O children, and do thereafter that ye may be safe. For the Lord, meaning the Creator, for Yah have given the father honor over the children, and hath confirmed the authority of the mother over the sons. See, the power that a woman can have with a man will make a man bless his son that he didn't even think to bless in the first place in that manner, like Rebecca and Isaac. Any brother who would have a lady in his life, I hope and pray that you find your Rebecca to where you have that peace in that case. And that peace coming from the Most High in that union. Most High bless you all. Shalom.